I I always wanted to be a journalist. I made my first newspaper when I was 5, just for a very pretentious cause, because I was collecting money for to buy rainforest to save it from being cut down. So I made a little newspaper that I went around to my neighbors and sold to people, and I really liked that, so I always kept saying that I want to be a journalist, and once I reached that age when you can start applying to university, I just felt that you know I've been wanting this for so long, so I should give it a try. Um, so I graduated in 2007, and I had my internship at Svenska Dagbladet, which is like one of the leading dailies in Sweden, and I got a temporary position there at their economy department right after. So I worked there for about a year, and then moved over to TT, Sweden's leading news agency, and then I've been working on and off there since, I would say, with a few breaks. If I found a better business model, I would definitely prefer freelancing, because I set up my own projects, and I don't have to feel the expectations of someone, and I get to spend more time on the topics. Yeah, I feel I get to use all my capabilities much better when I'm a freelancer compared to when I'm in an office, because the Swedish media industry these days is very, it's running on really tight budgets all the time, so their journalism is not, you don't have the resources you need basically to do, especially what you call foreign reporting. It's really hard. You will get stuck at at your desk basically. So I mean, and I want to spend as little time as possible at the desk. I want to be out and about. So I definitely prefer the freelancing, but economically it's tough. Well, it depends. I mean, the first trip we made was to Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, and we knew something was going on, that the situation got more tense, but we managed, of course, to get there exactly when the tension escalated into open conflict. So we got stuck in a hospital there for a couple of days, and it was our first, trip like that. So we didn't have enough money in our budget for something unexpected, and we were inexperienced, and that was quite stressful. But I mean, at the same time, it was a great experience, because after that, you felt you could do anything. But there are a lot of different challenges, but the last trip I made to Ukraine was extremely difficult, because not only was the security situation really bad the first day we got there, and there was a lot of heavy artillery going on, and they also blew up a chemical factory just outside the city, which blew out windows and everything in several kilometers radius, and I have kids too, so that made me quite stressed, definitely, feeling that maybe we got into something that was a bit hotter than we had expected, because it had been much calmer the days before. And at the same time as we were doing this, I always feel confident that I'm doing something important, but we ended up in a very strange situation where, when we contacted our editors, they didn't want to, some of them didn't want to buy any material, because they said it was too dangerous for us to be there. And it's a consequence of journalists who got killed and imprisoned recently here in Sweden, that were freelancers, and they want to take responsibility, saying that if we don't send our own staff, we shouldn't buy any freelance material from there. But at the same time, it's a very strange situation when you're sitting in an environment where news is happening, but you're not allowed to report about the news because someone on the other side of the world has decided that you're not, that is too dangerous for you. So we ended up in a situation where the dangers were much bigger than they had been previously, and we made no money. I've been trying to solve it that way, that I don't spend most of my time away from my family. I make maybe maximum 2 weeks right now because they're small, the kids. And then when I come home, I work from home, so I have more time with them. And also in between my trips, I try to fill in blanks in a newsroom, like at the news agency, or I'm gonna move over to the radio after that. So I work for maybe 2 months at the radio or at the news agency. I make a trip 2 weeks, spend maybe 1 month on finishing everything, resting a bit, being more with my kids, and then I start over again. I'm trying to find a balance there. It's not easy, and I think it's hard to set up a model that is going to work all the time. I think you have to improvise a bit because, like when we were going to Western Sahara, like I thought I could be away for 2 weeks, but at that point I felt the kids were not, it was a lot of things happening. They had been sick and everything, and they were not. It wouldn't have felt good to be away for 2 weeks, so I cut it down to 7 days, and I, my colleague and I, we try to divide the work a little bit differently. And I'm thinking maybe later it could be a longer period of time when we can talk about it, and then I can spend more time home as a compensation. I mean, it's all about finding a balance there. And I try to, and I always ask myself too if I would have the same doubts if it was my husband, because none of us reacts if he needs to be away for a week. It's okay, and nobody thinks that that's gonna do any harm to the kids. And I think it's the same thing with me. Actually, I think sometimes we put a bit too much, onto the. It's those small things, that keep happening all the time when you're out working. Like when we flew over Uganda, the Karamoja areas, with this small plane with this aid worker, and just got to see everything from above, and got to land on this bumpy little airfield, and just, there was absolutely no risks involved. It was just plain fun, and it was an easy story. It was great in every way. And when we, I have this, our car broke down in South Sudan, and we got stuck in this small little village, and we were a bit stressed because we didn't really know about the security. The road was not super safe, and our driver promised he was going to send someone else to pick us up, but that person never came. Or he did come, but like a day later, and he was just 5 minutes away. But we were really lucky because the place where the car broke down, everyone was really helpful, and they put us on little plastic chairs under a tree so we wouldn't get too warm. And then after a while, when we all realized that we weren't gonna move any further that night because it's in LRA areas, Lost Resistance Army and those kind of groups are there, so it was not a safe place to continue the journey like at night anyway. Then they they found a place for us in this little lodge with mud huts, and they made us food and everything. And it was just, we were being so well taken care of. And it was probably like one of the nicest experiences in a difficult situation, because the car broke down. There was no network, there was no one to contact, and we thought we were going to have to walk, but then some people picked us up and dropped us off there, and we were well taken care of. So I mean, just those things are, make everything worthwhile when you just get a nice clean break and get to sit down with people, and just, yeah, it was just really welcoming and warm and nice. We also spent a week in a fishing village in Cameroon, and that was also quite amazing in every way, considering, like, with climate and all that, and also with the people, who took us out in their small canoes and everything, and just, let us into their lives and told us about the effects of the overfishing of the seas and so on. It was also a very strong experience, I would say. And I mean, first of all, it gives me perspective, definitely. I mean, life is not very easy back home either, but I mean, it's nice to be able to zoom out and just think about what I have, and think about all the people I've met in my experience, like, and just think about it for a while, that in comparison, this is this is a very easy life, and it makes me appreciate everything I have, and also I get, I feel that it makes it easier to coexist with people, because I get to see, I mean, wherever you go, you're gonna find people who go against their society and their rules, and you're gonna see that nothing is as black and white as it's being portrayed. Wherever you go, you're gonna find all these things that contradict the image you had before, and back home also, I think I find it easier to I mean, nothing shocks me anymore, and I find it easier to see maybe sometimes where people are coming from, and why they react the way they do, and I think it made me much more humble to the difficulties you can have, because I mean, even after the past trip to Ukraine, for example, I mean, for about a month and a half, and we're talking about one day of really heavy shelling and a few minutes of fear of death. It still made like a month and a half when every time I heard a boom, I start thinking, okay, is it far or is it close? And looking for escape routes and so forth. And it just, it's good to experience that, I think, because it makes you understand what it does to a human being who's maybe been in this surrounding for years. How much that affects the mind and how much different it makes life. I mean, it's it's. I don't really know how to sum it up in a easy sentence, but I just feel that it enriches my life a lot, and it makes it easier for me to understand other people, I think, from not only from other parts of the world, but just generally, that we all go through. We have our own, everyone has his or her history, and we go through a lot in our lifetime that affects the way we behave and how we act, I think that in these days, when there is so much information online, and it's very easy to find information about things, but that information is not necessarily true. It's not necessarily based on a goal to find out how things really are, but more based on trying to convey a message or use it for another purpose. In a time like that, I would say that journalism is more important than ever, especially now when I feel that we're moving a bit more towards opinion journalism, where you're supposed to sit and have a lot of opinions about things. Well, for me, like I think it's really important to spend more time and resources on going back to basics. You know, having people, you know, at the spot who actually observe and come with are there with an open mind, trying to find out how things actually are and can convey it, and you know, have have this ideology basically of not twisting things, but just trying to find out how they really are, like objective reporting, really. I think it's more than necessary these days, and I feel that you know, that's, otherwise we're gonna get a society where everything is about opinions, you know, like a relativist society where everyone has their own truth, and I am extremely convinced that there is, in a lot of cases, actually one truth. You know, if let's take an example. If a refugee camp in Yemen is being bombed from the air, it's just one group who did it. Like, it's not a matter of opinion. Like, one side says this and one side says that. I mean, there is an actual truth to it, and the only way to find out that truth is to be there on the ground and speak to people and trying to find out that truth. And I think we need more of that these days, when it's so easy to spread misinformation and so forth. We need well-trained, well-equipped journalists from all over the world, working in their home environment, working in an abroad environment, you know, just with the ideals of objective journalism as a, you know, a leading star. Yeah, that's what I think, and I think it's a big mistake to cut down on journalism and you know, trying to save money on having less reporters, basically.